raise your hand, unmute yourself, and join this discussion. Or feel free to just drop your question in chat. I will try to keep an eye on it. And of course, I'll answer all your questions at the end of this presentation. But yeah, don't be shy and just step in if you have something to add. And if you are as brave as June, feel free to turn on your camera, because actually that may make my life a bit easier, because it's just simpler to see who you are talking to. With that said, let's start. I want to start with something that might be less relevant for this audience, because you already are speakers, but that's something that new speakers should think of as early as possible. And like new speakers, that's probably an advice for you. You need to find your why. Why? Why? Speaking is not an easy activity, and don't let that scare you, because coding is not easy to. Like management can be even trickier, and even hobbies like, I don't know, playing guitar, dancing, any hobby like painting is not easy, and it requires some dedication to master. So think of public speaking like a hobby. It starts challenging, but as you go, as you progress, it will be easier and easier for you. And in fact, public speaking can become addictive. So, yeah, it's actually great. But because it's not easy, you need a strong why to keep going. Without a clear purpose, you might stop after your first or second presentation. And I can share my whys here. Like, I do public speaking because that's just the easiest way for me to learn something new. When I'm working on a presentation, usually I need to deep dive into the topic to a level that I would not bother with if I just researched something for myself, because I want to be able to answer all questions from the audience. And that's why I really deep dive into some topics. And besides learning, speaking is just a way for me to share my knowledge in topics that I'm passionate about. And of course, you always can just write an article or record a YouTube video. But with public speaking, especially when it's offline conference, it's just so much more. Uh, it it has a different vibe. It's so much better to actually speak to people, get feedback from them, learn from them, and it's not the same as with articles and comments under your YouTube videos. And of course, public speaking can boost your professional visibility and can boost your career growth, which is really true. Like, I've seen that so many times already. And of course, and maybe most importantly, it just feels amazing to see and hear that you helped something with someone with something. So there might be just some my beats of why I do public speaking, and I'm sure you'll have your own reasons for that. Um, and let me just describe you what was the content of my from page to stage course. Don't even bother reading all this plan now, as in this presentation we will cover each of these steps, each of these items in details. And some of them, like, I'll spend less time on the less important topics for you. However, I decided to still keep at least all of these topics, because even the very first one, like where topics are hiding, how to find the topics, is important for speakers of all levels. You might know my wife, Anna Leushchenko. She is a well-known speaker in Flutter community, and it's so funny that even she sometimes struggle with topics. And I heard that several times from her, like, "Oh, No, nothing interested has happened recently. And this is so not true. So let's talk about where topics are hiding. We spend quite a significant amount of time doing our day to day work. And you probably will be surprised to know how many topics are hiding there. And in general, there is a recommendation to seek for strategic advice from experts, but tactical advice, it's better to ask for tactical advice from your peers or someone just slightly more experienced than you. And that's probably advice for less experienced engineers, or if you are unsure that you are knowledgeable enough, you don't need to be an expert actually to deliver a great talk, because someone who just almost on the same level as you will benefit from your talk the most because you understand their struggles, you understand their problems. Experts quite often don't really understand the problem because they're expert in some areas and something might seem trivial to them. So when you feel that something just worth attention happened during your day, take a quick note about that. And I'll show you how to validate your notes and to decide whether you need to transform that note into a topic shortly. Next, think about questions or problems that bothered you for days or weeks, like your attempts to find answers, or maybe your inability to find answer to some problem can inspire interesting discussions and can be transformed into a talk. Unpopular opinion. If you hold a viewpoint that's generally not popular, goes against the mainstream, and you have well reasoned arguments to back it up, it can be just a brilliant talk. Just ensure that it's constructive and that you are open for discussions, for conversations. Don't try to play devil's advocate here. And if you are not sure about your talk, if you don't really trust the opinion or the idea that you're going to share, it's better not to do so. You need to believe in your talk yourself. Lessons from success. Yeah, you may share moments where things went well, like your moments of glory. However, what's even more interesting is actually lessons from failure, because unlike success, failure is universal, and stories about failures, your audience will learn more from stories of failures than from success stories. And of course, failure stories can be incredibly engaging. Like you can tell that people love when someone fails at something, and there will be interesting conversations. The next category of topics I called, that's interesting. And it's actually what it is. When you hear this phrase, that's interesting, from 3 or 4 different people, that means that it's a good topic, even if you think that it's extremely boring and like it's not really interesting. Just listen to someone who surrounds you. And the very last category is called magic wand. If there is an idea and you believe that world just needs to know about it, it will be a better place when more people will know about something. And if you think that something just needs to be spread and you don't care whether it's interesting, you don't care whether other people believe that it is interesting, you don't care whether it's a unique thought or not, you just think that something needs to be spread, go for it, because your passion can make this topic great. Speaker matters. And during the day, most likely, most of your topics actually will be here in Everyday Insights, unless you are bothered with some things that keep you at night, or you really hear, that's interesting. And even so, take notes. During the day, just note everything that theoretically can be a good topic. Previously, I used virtual notes. Um, it usually takes, I don't know, a few seconds for you to open your note taker application, add some brief title, maybe some brief description, and that's it. And you call it a day. Nowadays, I mostly use um, paper notebook, it's just a tiny one that my beautiful wife brought me from some conference, and I find myself using it a lot for many things, including drafting ideas for topics. And no matter what you choose, it's important to to note everything in one place so that you will not lose your drafts. And it's important not to rely on your memory, because sometimes you may think, oh, that's such a brilliant idea. Of course, I will remember it. You will not. Just make a note. And then periodically, you need to review your notes and use a checklist that validates whether your idea or your draft can be transformed, or worse, to be transformed or developed into a talk. So that's my checklist. I just put my talk in front of these statements to check whether my talk is good enough. Like, my talk is not a product or company advertisement. Clearly, there are some special types of events where that makes sense. However, in general, I'd recommend you to try to avoid in advertisements, because products and companies come and go, and your talk may stay actual for longer. And if it's not tied to any tool or service, it's probably will deliver a value on its own and be much more universal. My talk does not describe unique circumstances. Aim to make your talk applicable. Like, if you cover some unique circumstances, ensure that it's presented it in a way that others can connect with or learn from. Um, Otherwise, your talk will be too niche and probably just unclear for the majority of your audience. My talk has the main idea. Ensure that your talk has a single idea. Like, for example, uh, from cats to virtual reality and guitars. Well, that might be an interesting topic, and maybe some weirdos will attend your talk, but actually, it's too broad. And you want your audience to immediately understand what your talk will be all about and decide whether they want to invest their time in your talk. Because actually, be respectful and ensure that if you promise to deliver an interesting talk, then you made a statement with your title. And of course, your talk needs to be good for your audience. So you need to think about your target audience. You'll need to ensure that an average person in your audience understands the problem well enough to follow your presentation, in your speech. And at the same time, you need to ensure that it's not too basic and not too obvious for the audience. We will talk about that in a moment. um, Take topics you collected with your notes, apply a checklist to them, and when you think that your topics pass the checklist, then you add them to the list of topics. Keep it simple. Do not overcomplicate. I've seen so many speakers tried to create some complex systems where they automate everything. Like, hey, I've created some script, some automation. Each time when I create a sticky note on my desktop, it actually sends an email, and based from that email, some special system creates a note in Notion for me, which then is synced with Obsidian, and then I can just abandon this topic because I never wanted to work on it. Like, that's too complex. I use Notion. However, you can pick any tool like Obsidian, Apple Notes, Paper Notebook. Once I met a person that manages a list of topics in Figma because they just work in Figma on daily basis, and whatever works for you actually is good enough. It's just you need a place there, and do not really overcomplicate it. I usually the only complexity that I add to my list of topics is that I try to guesstimate my talk complexity, and that allows me to quickly filter my talks each time when I see a conference, and when I'm just thinking like, all right, that looks like a conference more for less experienced engineers, so I can just see all my like basic topics there. And I have a checkbox that just tells whether I already delivered my talk, because I really, really don't like to do the same talk twice. um, when I add a topic to this list, I usually spend from 5 minutes to like half an hour drafting an abstract there. And it's important to keep in mind that it's still a draft, and you are not making any commitments by just the fact that you added a topic to that list. You are not committed that you'll deliver this talk, so just relax and allow yourself to put whatever you have in mind into that list. And of course, it's tempting to start working on a topic the moment you edit it here, because we like new things, and you probably, the moment you added it to that list, you're like, oh my god, that's the best topic that I will do in my life. It's amazing, I'm so smart, and audience will love that. Stop. Take a deep breath here, because we do live new things. Continue what you are doing. Like, if you already worked on a topic, keep working on it, do not switch. If you just edit a topic, let it be for a few days. Revisit this list regularly, because most likely in 2 or 3 days that topic will not look as brilliant to you as you thought it is in the first place. However, you will literally hear some topics whispering to you from that list. Like, some topics will just keep your attention, you'll keep an eye on them, you will read them all the time, and you'll be like, damn, no, that's actually a good topic. And that's where you start working on that topic. So, how can you develop a topic? I know some fellow GDEs who structure their talks around their personal stories, and when they don't have a story, they just create one. And that's really great. Like, these topics are really interesting. However, if you don't have these talent of being a stand-up comic, or like, if you are just not used to spontaneously tell stories, then I propose you like a more technical, more boring approach that I use. It would be easier for your audience to follow your talk if you structure it in a pyramid. And there is a beautiful book, The Pyramid Principle by Barbara Minto, where she describes the Minto pyramid. So, what it is? Very briefly, you start with one idea, and the idea is a short answer to the problem that you raised in your presentation. When you provide this answer, your idea, you expect a question. For example, if you're working on a talk that's called error handling in software applications, and you are saying monads can be used for effective error handling. You expect questions like what is monad and how they can be used. So the worst thing you can hear is yes, so. And that means that you actually miscalculated, misestimated your target audience. So a question you may get might sound like, okay, what is monad? And that's um, that's a question, and you need to answer it with some statement that's supported by one or more facts. And that's sort of an imaginary dialogue between you and someone from your audience. You're telling them statements, in fact, they are asking questions. And by the way, um, a monad is just a monoid in the category of endofunctors. So if you have a question of what is monoid, then you're my target audience for functional programming basics presentation. And your target audience is people with from 2 to 4 level gap between your main idea and their familiar facts. Otherwise, your talk will be either too basic or it will be too advanced for the audience. So, for example, what is monoid? Monoid is a general pattern for merging or reducing data. And here, probably for many software engineers, like many software engineers will already hear words that they know, like merging, reducing data. Okay, I know that already. So that's actually 2 level gap between an idea and some fact that you're familiar with. If you use this imaginary dialogue, if you follow it, your talk will eventually conform to the Minter pyramid rules, like ideas at any level will summarize the ideas grouped below, because all facts that you use will be needed for you to answer a question about them. There will be no more random facts, or ideas will be logically interconnected, because all of them, every your statement, every your fact will be part of your answer to the main idea of the talk. And there will be a logical sequence, because you're just answering a question and not just randomly throwing some interesting facts to your audience. And I don't recommend you write too much text in Notion. And I definitely don't recommend you to start developing your talk with a presentation, because you will focus on colors, on fonts, styles, and absolutely unimportant details no one cares about. Instead, I suggest you to focus on mind map. Like, for example, here are 2 mind maps from my real talks. Any application will do. Previously, I used Simple Mind, but now I use Apple's Freeform just because it's pre-installed and it's free and it's good enough. However, you can use any tool, or again, just a piece of paper and create such a mind map. And I usually spend from 2 3 days to 2 3 weeks working on a single mind map. Some presentations, some talks takes longer because I need to do some deeper investigation into the topic. Again, as I said, that's how I learn. That's a way for me to deep dive into some topic. Otherwise, I would not just bother with this, with deep and dive into it. And sometimes I change my talks while I'm working on mind maps, because I can find some interesting facts that actually I think become more important than my original idea. So I changed my whole presentation to deliver these interesting facts or interesting statements or thoughts to the audience. And sometimes I abandon talks here. So even if I believe that this talk makes sense, it's interesting, I believe in it, if I don't have good facts that supports my idea, it's better probably not to do this talk, because well, you cannot prove that you're right yourself. Yeah, and that's where you start using the rubber duck method. And you may give your talk to your cat, to your plant, to, I don't know, just to rubber duck. Unlikely rubber to you all. Unlikely rubber duck will give you provide you any feedback. However, you'll see yourself when something goes off with your sequence of statements when you'll be delivering your talk to your cat. And by the way, if you're happy with your mind map and your cat is happy with your talk, you can start pitching it to your colleagues during business lunches. Like you may just describe your idea and validate your mind map like that. And after you gave your talk to your cat and to your colleagues, that's where you stop working on your talk. At least that's what I suggest you to do. And your talk lives in this superposition state where it exists because you already have an idea for that talk, you have a mind map, you already pitched it. But at the same time, you have no presentation, you have no, I don't know, some code samples, and no speaker's note, like nothing. It's right now, it's just a story in your head. And I recommend you to progress further and work on your talk only when it's selected to a conference. And that's actually our next step, submitting the topic. I guess it's less relevant for you, so I will try to keep it short because, like, you already submitted a talk, and I just give you a pro tip here. I suggest you to write your biography in advance, like create two versions, a short one and slightly longer one. Prepare links to social network accounts, like some email and like any links that you don't mind to share with the world. And it's really important to have them somewhere like in hand, so you will be able to access this information in 30 seconds. And you need to prepare a photo. I recommend using the same photo across all your presentations and all your social media. It should be at least 124 by 124 pixels, PNG, no transparent background. And overall, this photo should be slightly more interesting than the one that you have in your passport, but not too much more interesting, something like that. And then you monitor call for papers. I recommend you just subscribe to all conferences that you are interested in social networks, and monitor them. And there is a lazy way. For example, if you are interested in giving a Flutter talk, Flutter related talk, there is a repository. You may just monitor changes in that repository, and new conferences will be put there. Search for other repositories, like in topics that you are passionate about. There will be some, and them, subscribe to them, and just monitor these repositories. Why I told you that it's important to keep that information with your photo and your biography somewhere in hand, so it will take like 30 seconds for you to find it, because the moment you see call for paper, apply. Because after a minute, you will start thinking, oh, but actually my talk is too basic for this conference, or it's too advanced for this conference, or I see that there are so many really great speakers already announced for this conference, like they will not choose me. That's all not true. That's would be just the voice of fear in your head. Ignore it and apply. And by the way, I completely forgot to mention that when you're working on your abstract, I suggest you not to overuse AI. As someone who was in a committee for different conferences, I can tell you that when we see something like dividing into realms of something, or something has been paramount, that just means that speaker decided not to bother with their abstract, and they just asked Gemini to generate some abstract for them. That's a huge red flag. Please don't overuse AI and just apply with what you have. And don't be shy to be bold. Like, do not ignore big conferences because many of them welcome first time speakers or unexperienced speakers also. But if you're too nervous, like if you are afraid to apply to big conferences, okay, start with local meetups. You may find GDG events in pretty much every big city, and sometimes you may find them online in online format. So apply. If you're really scared, then start with internal presentations within your team, like in your company. Just pitch your ideas there, but don't be. And hopefully, I will give you a piece of advice how to stay calm when you are speaking. So be bold. Um, when your topic will be approved and when you'll be selected, that's where you can start working on the talk. That's where you develop in it, or at least that's my recommendation. So most of my talks are deeply technical. And because of that, for me, it's easier to start with demo applications. So I drafted some app, most likely mobile app, and I spent like 1 or 2 evenings on that. And sometimes my preparation ends here. I delivered several talks when I used just my IDE, and sometimes it's good enough. However, if you want to be slightly more old school, then yeah, you may work on presentation, and it will be easier for you to work on presentation because you already have a mind map. You already have a structure for your talk. You just need to copy paste like these cards from your mind map and them slides in your presentation. And I suggest you don't spend too much of your time doing these. Like, people come to see and hear you, and you'll be surprised to know how little people care about your presentation. Like, you may just pick the default template from Keynote, PowerPoint, Google Slides, whatever you will choose, and use it. No one cares. That's literally a default template for presentations too. I hope you don't mind. Most likely you don't. If you want to play safe, pick the light background and dark text. Why? Because dark background and light text doesn't work really well with projectors. So white background, always safe. If you want to be stylish, okay, black background will do too, but you need to ensure that there are no projectors. I highly suggest you not to use animations because they may distract your audience. I know they are funny, I know that we all love GIFs, but the worst case scenario is actually a cyclic animation because there is a chance that it may, like, your audience may be hypnotized by it, and they will just look at that animation instead of listening to whatever you are saying there. I usually spend like up to 3 days on presentations there, mostly because I have a good structure for my presentations. I just copy pasted from mind maps. And then I practice. Times really flies, so you need to plan rehearsals. I suggest you just book some slots in your calendar and that you will dedicate for your presentation, at least 20 minutes per day. And I highly recommend you to do this daily. I'm a huge fan of the Pomodoro technique. So I usually set up a timer for 25 minutes and I focus on presentation only in these 25 minutes. Then I'm taking 5 minutes break, and then I decide whether I want to have another Pomodoro, another 25 minutes, or I call it a day for now. And that's a really interesting technique. It's called the Hemingway bridge. Um, so it really helps you to it may help you if you stop working on your presentation the moment you still have an idea what goes next, because that allows you to easily step into your workflow and just put yourself in the flow easily, because you know what's going to happen next. You don't need to think like, hey, what's going on there? Oh, really? Okay, I need to speed up. Cool. And then you practice. And don't expect that you can just show on stage and deliver a good talk. No one can. 5 minutes before the talk. And that's probably the most important part of this talk for you folks. Because 5 minutes before the talk, you'll be nervous. Your body will feel strange because it prepares either to fight or to run. However, you will need to stand still on the stage really soon, so you need somehow to calm down your body. I recommend you to do some workouts, push-ups, sit-ups. Probably it may look awkward if you'll do this on stage or in the audience. So I recommend you to go to the toilet, for example, and do some workout. Just don't get sweat. Prepare your jaws. Like, there is a simple exercise that can help with it, and it's easier to show it to you than to describe. So look here, you do this like that. And that really prepares your jaws. Just don't do this too hard, no injuries there. And then you need to do this with your lips. And that will prepare your lips. And clearly, there are tons of other really great exercises, and to ask Gemini what to do. However, just these few exercises already will prepare your body for talking. Last but not least, you can do this already on stage right before you deliver your talk. Stand in a superhero pose, because that pose will tell your body that you're in control of everything, everything's great, you're the boss here, all good. However, if after all that you are still panicking, try to say this to yourself, like, you're not scared, you're excited. Because being scared is scary, while being excited is exciting. And these feelings are somewhat similar, and you may just misinterpret your excitement. You may just think that you're scared while you're not. And in the end, it's okay to feel unusual, and because you are just one step from doing something really great. That thought may help you as well. And if nothing helps, just keep in mind that this feeling will go. Like, the moment you'll start delivering your talk, you will feel much, much better. Delivering the talk. What's to do when you're on stage? First of all, don't afraid of your audience. Like, they're not sitting there and thinking, like, for example, I'm sure no one of you just listening to me here and thinking, I wish this talk was a disaster. Like, I wish I just spent an hour doing nothing and I spent it in vain. No, they actually want your success. They want to learn from you. They want you to deliver a good talk. So you're already in a pretty good position. The room, or virtual room in that case, is already filled with people who wants you to succeed. Like, they're almost like your friends. So be approachable, be positive, be confident, because, like, hey, they are already on your side. Your audience is on your side. For me, I found it helpful to do that things that I called island of interest. In the audience, I select small groups of people and I focus on them only. Here is how I do it. I split the audience into three parts: rear, middle, and far. And then I choose three persons from middle area and five persons that are closer to me, and I deliver a talk for them. So why more near me? Because first, roles set the tone for the entire audience, and when someone from back will see that actually people in front of them are listening to the speaker, there is a huge chance that they will start listening too. I select these persons by making eye contact with them. And yeah, you can actually tell whether someone is interested in your talk because they lean in, they nod, they make this eye contact with you. You can see that they are interested. And by focusing on these 8 individuals, I know exactly where to look so that I don't spend too much of my mental energy delivering my talk, and I spend this energy, this mental power for my presentation, and it's just easier for me. It reduces my distractions, and that techniques seems to be working for me for audience of any size, whether it's 20, 50, 500 people. Like for me, it just works, and 8 people is good enough to get feedback from the audience and like spread focus there. Alrighty. And when you're on stage, remember that something will go wrong. That's just the law. I had an interesting, fun story for you, but I will not tell it because we have 9 minutes left. So let me speed up a bit. And most likely there will be a Q&A part after your talk. Q&A sessions might feel uncomfortable, but they are a great opportunity to engage with audience, and that's actually the main benefit of having a public talk. Then otherwise you can just record a YouTube video and that's it. So when you are getting a question from the audience, I recommend you to clarify the question, just repeat or rephrase it to ensure that you understood the question, and that will give you a moment to think about the answer. I suggest you to be honest, and if you don't know the answer on some question, just admit that and promise to follow up with that person later. That will not make you seem less experienced. And if the question is too broad, just gently guide it back to your talk's topic, because some folks just want to show their knowledge in some topics, but you are the boss here. It's your responsibility to bring them back on track. And remember, a Q&A session is a dialogue, not a test. Again, talk to your friends. Like most likely no one is interviewing you. It's just a Q&A. And you may think that after you're done with a Q&A and you heard like a round of applause, that's it. But no. After the talk, there are 2 important things that you need to do. And the first one is you need to collect constructive feedback. Probably, most likely, someone will come to you and they will tell you that, oh, they liked your presentation so much. Amazing. Ask them what they liked about your presentation. Try to seek for some constructive feedback so you can reflect on it, and you'll understand where you struggled with your talk. Maybe you missed something, and use what you learned to improve your next talk. Don't be discouraged. um, and it will help you if you will write this feedback down somewhere. And by the way, my entire course and this presentation was created based on the feedback that I've got after my talks. And of course, the second thing you need to do is to celebrate. Like buy yourself a gift and create this connection in your brain, neural connection that talks are great. And after you delivered a talk, there will be some gift so that it will be a pleasant experience for you. And of course, don't forget to tell the community about your performance and about your talks, because, well, that's actually a very nice thing to do too. And I wanted to keep some time for us for maybe a Q&A session. That's why I will stop here. That's all what I wanted to share. And I wish you folks all the best with your presentations. And if you think that I can help with anything, feel free to send me an email or ping me on Twitter. And now, in these 6 minutes, I'm more than happy to have a dialogue with you and to answer your questions.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful talk summarized within these few minutes that we had. And as someone who has given talks before, I must admit I've learned some new things on what I could also use in future. But for this chance, I want to give it to our audience who would actually speak to tell us if they have any questions, any concerns, and feel free to shoot. The time is now. We have 6 minutes, 4 minutes.
What has gone wrong for me before? Frankly speaking, everything. During pretty much every presentation, any talk, something goes wrong, something unexpected happens. The most stressful experience for me was, hmm, I think it was on the first Flutter Europe conference because it was a really big conference. It was probably the first big conference on Flutter. I knew that there are so many great folks are there in the audience, so I was nervous. And the night before my talk, I prepared like everything. Prepared sample applications, just ensured that everything is on track, everything works perfectly. And then next day, right before my talk, fortunately for me, I was the first speaker of the day, so I had that luxury of having a possibility to prepare my MacBook and overall to prepare. So I was like, oh, okay, I have this sample application here, it works. I try to run it and it fails. Like there are some compilation errors, nothing is working. Like clearly something went wrong there. And without these sample, my presentation would make little sense. Like literally, it was about augmented reality, and I wanted to show augmented reality samples. So without it, it's like given a talk about ice cream. I can tell you that ice cream is great. You will like it. Like if you just try ice cream, you definitely will love it. But come on, it would be so much better if I will just give you ice cream and you taste it yourself. So it was the same. Like augmented reality, I can tell you that it's an interesting and excitement topic, but I can show it to you, and that would be far better. So it was really stressful for me. I um, I just decided to start from scratch, and I tried to build an application there a few minutes before my talk. Like I tried to create a new scaffold for the app, and it failed too. So I tried to calm down and think what can go wrong. And like the moment I calmed down and turned on my engineering analytics mind, I was like, okay, I connected to Wi-Fi, and maybe it's unsecure. So maybe there is some SSL pinning problem. I will try to reconnect with my device, and we'll just be sure that it's more controlled environment. So I did. It worked, and I started my presentation with an empty app. I had to recreate all my samples right in front of the audience. I failed with one of them because I don't remember, but I remember that I've done something wrong, and I used a hand from the audience. They told me, hey, actually, you forgot this stuff. I was like, yeah, thank you. And that's how I delivered the talk. However, I still had tons of feedback on it, positive feedback. Like folks liked it. So you may think it was a disaster. At the same time, in a way, it was success.
Nice. That's great to know. You have a couple of few questions. I'm not sure if you want to handle all of them now, but one question I can recall read is, how do you navigate when audience doesn't engage to you?
That means that I really, really misestimated my target audience, because that means that the topic is not interesting for them. I've seen that many times. Fortunately for me, I was never in such a situation, but I've seen that many times that people are just leaving your audience like in the middle of your talk. And this is fine. Like, don't take it personally. It doesn't mean that you are a bad person. And it doesn't mean that your talk is not great. Um, that means that your talk is wrong for this audience. And that's it. So don't take it personal. I would just deliver my talk. And I guess that the continuation of this question will be, what do you do when no one has a question? usually I made a joke, like for example, hey, after my talk, I know that there will be a break, so I'll meet you near coffee machine. Let's chat there. Otherwise, I don't know. Enjoy your 5 minutes back.